Hello, unstoppable real estate investors. I am Rihanna Starr, host of the Unstoppable Real Estate Investor Podcast. Every Wednesday and Friday, we have this podcast. On Wednesdays, it's top 5%ers, the rock stars in the industry. On Fridays, it's movers and shakers, the up and coming. Mondays, we also have a Mindset and Marketing Monday podcast with Rufus Thibodeau and myself at 6 p.m. Eastern. All times are Eastern. We have been having some technical difficulties since my account was hacked and my streaming just has gone wonky and we still haven't figured out. I've looked on Facebook, I've looked on Zoom, and for some reason we haven't been able to find why it's not letting me live stream. Therefore, the recorded message. Sorry, but hopefully by next week we'll be coming to you live again. Hey, I want to just welcome my guest, Chris, and I'm not even going to try. Well, I'll try it. Schlechta.
Pretty close.
Schlechta?
Yep.
That's a cool name. What's the ancestry of that?
So actually, the original name was pronounced Schlechta, and it was spelled totally different. And when my family immigrated here, they changed it to the Americanized version that you see spelled out today, but we still pronounce it the old way that it was spelled. So, but it's Czech in its origin.
What is the origin?
Czechoslovakia, that area.
Czechoslovakian. Okay. So tell me a little bit about why you agreed to come on the podcast, and then we'll get a little bit into what was your background pre-real estate, and then we'll talk about your real estate journey, and then you have a software program that you want to talk about. So tell me a little bit about why'd you agree to come on as a guest on the podcast?
I'm a huge consumer of podcasts, and I do a lot of behind the windshield time, and I love listening to podcasts. I love listening to other people's stories and looking for those nuggets that I can share in my own business. And it's kind of for that same reason, because I guess I have the quintessential entry into real estate that is everything but standard. You just kind of get into it with one mindset that takes you in about 25 other directions.
I love it. Awesome. Well, I'm glad you felt my podcast was worthy of your participation. And so tell me a little bit about your background pre-real estate.
Sure. So I had years ago, I started off as a firefighter. I think it was 19 when I joined the fire service.
Right on.
Off and on, off and on, I've been a firefighter full time and still a volunteer with my local municipality. I'm a lieutenant on the fire department. Also do emergency management duties for our village. So got into real estate actually back in 2005, I believe. Worked in the city of Milwaukee doing EMS, kind of got burned out doing that. High call volume, just working in the city, it just takes its toll on you. So I kind of switched gears. At that time, was married, got into that family business, which was real estate. Got involved, was doing property management, fix and holds, a little bit of development work. Just really kind of got the bug back then, kind of understood, what the value of real estate was. And, back then they didn't call it house hacking, but the first property I bought was a duplex, so I lived in the upper and then we rented out the lower. So really kind of got a crash course in what your dollars can do for you in real estate. Then just started acquiring for some single families, duplexes. I think I had one multifamily, like 3 or 4 units, something like that. Fortuitously, life took me in a different direction right in 2008. So ended up selling my last property for probably about what I bought it for 3 years ago as the market was tanking. So it kind of worked out.
Break even. You lost money on that one in a way, right?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I had all the rental income that I acquired over the couple of years, so chalk it up as a win.
Right. Yeah.
Got back into kind of my passion, which is safety. So as a safety consultant, so for the last, 15 years or so, worked for some consulting organizations, some trade associations. Now I actually work for my regular W-2 is with a large insurance carrier as the head of their safety and loss control department. So really going out and coaching people, helping them with safety, from that perspective. And it kind of bleeds obviously right into my fire and EMS background. So, fast forward a couple of years.
That now?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
So, doing the volunteer paid on call, the emergency management, the regular W-2 at the insurance company. And
boy, you're keeping busy.
Well, then add 3 kids on top of that. So
Wow.
and I decided, why not? Start get back into real estate. So about 3 years ago, decided I'm like, I was gonna get into fix and flips. I figure out, it's just something to get into to kind of start working on retirement accounts, and got back into it for fix and flips, and I've literally done everything except for fix and flips since then. So
That's funny.
um,
So tell us. Well, first, I want to back up a second, Chris. Love your background and thank you for your service as a firefighter and keeping us safe. And then I wanted to find out, how old are the kids?
so right now I've got an 8, a 10, and 11-year-old. I'm
Okay.
going to be getting married soon, so I'll have a bonus second 12-year-old daughter. So we've got a whole gaggle of kids in the house.
All right. All right. So you go in, you get back into the biz 3 years ago with the intention of fix and flip, and
Mm-hmm.
you've done everything but that. Tell us that story.
Yeah, so originally when I got started, it was actually a friend that approached me and said, and she was a realtor. I said, "Hey, you interested? Let's get a couple of people together and start doing fix and flips." I'm like, "Well, that makes sense." She's a realtor. The other person in the partnership had an interior design background. So I'm like, "Oh, okay, let's do this." And really didn't understand much. I kind of knew the basics of it. And one of the first things I did, like I do with a lot of stuff, is to really start studying. Kind of finding out what resources are out there. Wisconsin, where I'm at, thankfully has a very robust real estate investment association. I think there's something like 7 or 8 different groups throughout the state of Wisconsin. And there's 2 of them or 3 of them right immediate in my area. So I joined those groups, started networking. They do educational stuff, every month. So sometimes there's 3 meetings a month, depending on what my schedule is. And sometimes I can only make 1 or 2 of them. But really kind of started diving into that. Ended up connecting with a couple of folks in our local market that are just amazing in terms of sharing knowledge. 2 of those gentlemen, Derek Dombeck and Jeff Shahusky, they run a hard money lending outfit out of Green Bay called Best REI Funding.
Yeah, I'm familiar with Derek, but what's his
Yep.
partner's name?
Jeff Shahusky.
Yeah, I'm not, I don't know Derek. I just know Derek by name and
Yep.
through the circles. Yeah.
Yeah, and both of them for very different reasons. Derek is very much into the creative finance, the fix and flips. Has been a huge help. One of his first nuggets of knowledge he dropped on me when we were talking about kind of the seller financing and that type of stuff was a website called cashflowdepot.com, which is all of the recordings of Jack Miller. And just phenomenal information that's on there. It's a one-time lifetime membership, and I'm cycling through all of that. But Derek is really good about finding creative ways to acquire and finance properties, all the different options on the table. Like he says, when you go in to put an offer on a property, you should be walking in the door with at least 2 to 3 or 4 different structures of offers to present that seller.
Absolutely. Are you familiar with Pace Morby?
Yep, actually, all the sub 2 strategies. And then his partner, Jeff Shahusky, is really kind of a financial genius, if you will. He thinks it's just kind of different layers as far as how to use money, how to make that money work for you. And both of those guys have been just tremendous in their willingness to share their knowledge, with the different RIAs in the area that they're a member of.
And is Cashflow Depot, I'm pulling it up right now. Is Cashflow Depot their baby?
No, actually, if I understand the lineage, so they took over an organization called Generations of Wealth, and I believe it's like REI Mastermind, and I'm probably getting that wrong. And that lineage goes back to Jack Miller. So the different people over the years that have had their hands on helping with those different projects has kind of led to them. So it's just one of those things that Jack Miller was kind of one of the original people when it came to creative finance. Way back in I think it was the early '80s.
What's his name? Jack what?
Jack Miller, Miller.
Okay. I'm loving this. I like following the tips from
Yeah.
different people that come on my podcast.
Well, and
Nice.
years ago, at my first kick at the cat in real estate, I remember there was it Carlton Sheets, I think, was the big name back then.
Yeah, I
And
remember.
went into one of those boiler rooms. They had a local conference they put together, and they get you all crowded in the room, get you all hyped up, and then start selling you on all the coaching stuff that was on
Yeah.
there. Bought a ton of it, great philosophies, a lot of good, information that was in there. But it's just kind of one of those things, just keeping your mind open to the different, tactics. I shouldn't say even tactics, different strategies that you can use to maximize your real estate investing business.
Love it. Love it. So, what kind of deals have you been doing?
Sure.
Other real
So
estate?
my first one I ended up was, thought about, well, this is a fix and flip. Kind of the perfect opportunity. It was a vacant house for, I think, 5, 6 years. It just was, I wouldn't say gutted out. It needed to be gutted out. Was able to get it at a decent price. I bought the house, I think, at $68,000, put $70,000 worth of work into it. The valuation after it was done was $215,000. So got a pretty good deal on that. Well, as I was coming to the end of that, planning on flipping it, again, one of the presentations, or I think it was maybe a side discussion with Jeff at one of the RIA meetings, was talking about the tax element of it with fix and flips versus fix and hold, the BRRRR method, and those types of things. And I kind of reevaluated it and decided, well, I'm going to hang on to it, and then I'm going to keep it as a furnished rental, and then got actually into furnished rentals for traveling healthcare workers. So
That's
kind
a
of got it.
really good niche. Yeah.
It is. And I'm finding out it's a little bit saturated in my area. One of the things that I found out earlier on, so my property was a 3 bedroom, and I found out really the ideal property is a 1 bedroom or a 2 bedroom, for at least what I'm seeing for requests coming through in my area. So it was kind of one of those learning experiences. It's thankfully been rented out pretty nonstop. But I noticed there is not a tremendous amount of demand on it. So it's one of
Are
those
you
things where I'm,
renting it out to healthcare workers, or is it more of a long-term rental now?
nope, they're all short-term rentals. So I think the first one was in there for 2 months or 3 months. I've got another one that'll be coming in the end of this month. I have to try to flip it. So as soon as the first one moves out on a Friday, the next one's ready to move in on a Saturday. So, trying to get that turned over. Ended up kind of through networking, ended up with land development deals. So I've got 54 acres under an option contract. And it's on a kind of a high visibility state road leading to a popular state park with a marina. So I was able to kind of work that, God willing, and hopefully 2 months we'll be breaking ground with about a 60,000 square foot storage unit complex with 60 outdoor parking spaces. Found another partner group with that. So again, kind of the creative financing it. I'm walking into it with an option contract. They will buy the land from me, and then the difference from what they're paying me to what the actual land is valued, I'm taking back in an equity position in the storage unit complex. So no money out of pocket at all on that. The remainder of it, we've got about 36 acres that's scheduled for residential single family development. So we've been working with the municipality to get sewer and water service into that area. It's kind of just outside of their current sanitary district. A lot of positive encouragement from them. They like what we're doing over there, and it's building momentum along that corridor. And then we've also been in negotiations with kind of I would call it an anchor tenant, if you will, for the corner for a gas station convenience store that's pretty popular in the area. So again, predicated on sewer and water getting in there, but we've got all of that stuff lined up. Kind of along the process had, again, back to the RIA meetings. And I really encourage people, if you've got a real estate investor association in your area. What's
And
that?
real estate investment meetups, like where I'm at,
Yes.
Phil, the meetups are even more popular than the RIA meetings. So
Yeah. So
that's
whichever your flavor is, get out there and network. I mean, the amount of resources that I've been put in contact with just by going to these meetings, talking with people, learning from others in my area. Everybody has been so giving of their knowledge. It's not like any other industry where you go in and everybody's giving you the side eye like you're a competitor, you know?
yeah, it's funny. I was just at a Asheville Digital Nomad networking event yesterday, and they're just a great group of people. And the place we went to is a fairly new village pub. It's a fairly new place that got built. And I met one of the owners, and it turned out, I was asking him, so why a bar? And he said, it's just kind of a fun diversion project. I'm actually a real estate attorney. And I said, it just so happens I need a real estate attorney.
Yep.
And so I found my real estate attorney through a networking event.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was cool.
But yeah, and it was funny. Like I said, one of the other deals that I'm just wrapping up on was again, it was one of the RIAs, one of our great lending partners that's there. Got up on the stage, and we always do kind of a round robin. What do you need? What are you looking for? What do you have? Type thing, so everybody can share what's going on. And she's like, "I've got a house that somebody needs to sell. It's just the house. It's not the land." And happened to be in the municipality where I live, literally right down the road from my house. I mean, literally right down the road. And kind of a unique situation. The local municipality massively screwed up. The guy's building a dealership, for his maintenance operations, used car sales, fleet operations, and kind of sits on the border between two municipalities. He bought the land across the street in the municipality I live in. The local economic development director approved all of his permits to build the dealership, to renovate an old farmhouse that was on there. He put about $150,000 worth of renovations into this farmhouse. Looks absolutely gorgeous. Spent a ton of money on all of his engineering and everything for the dealership that would be put in. And the county came along and says, "Oh, hey, by the way, the village shouldn't have approved that building permit. You're in an airport overlay with the nearby airport. So if you want the dealership, you've got to bulldoze the house because you need 4 acres of land to be sitting in there." So it was kind of one of these unique situations. I kind of worked my network. I found a local person that had a couple acres of land literally in the perfect spot. So moving a house, you're kind of limited where you can move it.
Yeah, and that's a big project to unhook all the utilities and be able to move the house without disrupting the stability and the foundation of it. Wow.
Yeah. So I ended up getting a hold of an owner. I was able to basically negotiate a wholesale arrangement. So I purchased the property, sold the contract to the other gentleman. We moved the house to one parcel. The other parcel was adjoining of a different developed neighborhood. And it was outside of the HOA and covenants of the existing neighborhood because it was platted separately. So now we've got 2 lots up for sale for that to kind of help balance some of the costs that he's got going into this. Got the house moved. That was an amazing thing. I've actually got had a guy fly drone footage of the entire thing
I
that
would
I
love
use.
to see that.
Yeah, so if you look up Gabriel Investments LLC on Facebook, you'll see.
Oh, look, I'll give you sharing privileges right now.
Okay. Do you want me to pull up the website?
Yeah, and then just hit the play on it a little bit.
Sure. Let me
Just to
get it up
show
real
a
quick
little
here.
bit. Oops, wait, I'm doing the wrong thing. I'm sharing. Okay, hang on a second. Let me give you, yeah, I've given you permission to share. Yeah, I would love
Just
to
a quick
see, like
second.
the heart of them actually getting the house. That's so cool.
What was interesting about the whole process was I thought the actual moving of it would be far more labor intensive. And it was funny, the company that we got to do the move, based on about an hour and a half, 2 hours from me, I forgot to give them the door key code to get into the property, figuring they needed to get into there. And I happened to drive by their trucks on a highway as I was heading out of town for my normal job for an appointment. And I thought about it as an after effect, and I'm like, oh, geez, I got to call him. Well, I ended up getting back there. I didn't have his number handy with me. I got back, and by the time I got back, the entire house was already up in the air with I-beams running through it. So within the space of a couple of hours, they were able to basically get that entire property put up in the air and take care of what they needed to do to start that process. Get a second here. Apologize, it's taking me just an extra second. I just got a new computer system, so.
What a cool project. You can talk about some, just keep going. You've got great.
Yeah. So, kind of along with that, really just the everything that went into that as far as the coordination. So, the building inspectors, coordinating with, here we go. Okay, let me see how we can get this shared over here. Okay, there we go. Let's open this up a little bit. So yeah, there's music set to this in the background, but coordinating with.
We don't see anything yet.
Oh, hang on here.
There we go.
There we go. Okay. So, the whole process of getting the house up and moved and coordinating with the electric utilities to bring all the lines down and all the outages for the area, getting, the local sheriff's department for helping us with doing the escort on it because we had to shut down a bunch of roads. The contractors, getting everybody lined up, everything from site prep to excavation. Again, with the utilities, like a new build, if you will. Getting it all loaded in there and then getting it set in, building a new foundation underneath it, and getting that up and rolling. And now the music kicked in. There we go.
That's cool.
But yeah, I mean, it just kind of cool thing.
I love projects like I just went under contract for a property in Asheville city limits, and we're gonna demo everything that's on there, and we're gonna be building 9 tiny houses on there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun project, and we've got a great team. And so, and it's in an RM8 zone, so it's in an area where they want more urban density of residences because
sure,
it's definitely a seller landlord market right now. We can't build things fast enough. There is pretty much a 3% vacancy rate in the Asheville area, if that.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. So what else? Tell me what other unique projects you've done.
Yeah, so kind of along that line, one of the things that I kind of ran into is I'm a big tech guy. Like I love processes, I love data, data points and looking at that. So when I kind of first started again getting back to the studying of things and finding out, okay, well, how do I find people? How do I track that stuff? And because I was using I've got my lined legal pads, I've got piles of them everywhere that I keep notes on stuff, know. And I had built this Rube Goldberg puzzle of all these different systems to manage things, whether it was email or SMS texting or direct mail or any of these other things. And it got to a point it was so unwieldy, I had to kind of take a step back because I was managing software instead of managing leads. And I actually went about and started building my own software program for my own purposes, just to kind of keep everything siloed, if you will. It kind of grew feet, ended up last year actually launching that as a monetized CRM solution for real estate investors and wholesalers. So along with that, it's kind of a done for you integration. So all these little disparate pieces, so whether it's managing your social media accounts from there, whether it's doing ad placement for Facebook and Instagram on there, managing your SMS, your cold calling, if you got VA teams, we've got it set up so it's unlimited licenses. Because that was one of my pet peeves too, is if I wanted bird dogs, I call bird dogs the folks that are driving around for dollars and, hey, I found this rundown place. All the programs out there would charge you left and right for all those extra people to kind of help with your team, because there's no way you can really do this by yourself. You've got to have other people helping you.
You do.
So, I kind of built it around that concept of team approach, and being able to assign things and handle things, track things. Documentation is everything. From my safety background, if you didn't document it, it didn't happen. So on the real estate side of it, that also holds true. You got to make sure you've got things documented. Document it with your sellers, with your contractors, making sure that you can give all that stuff to your bank, to your title companies. So having document storage solutions that are all integrated into there. So it's one dashboard. Everything is all integrated into there. So as you're going through it, it doesn't matter what's plugging in the background. All that data is being presented to you in just one dashboard. So when I click on a lead, I can look at my entire conversation, whether it was text, whether it was phone calls, whether there was email, if it was social media, it all comes into one window. So I could keep track of stuff, and then I could prioritize it in different pipelines. And then at a high level, figure out where all my money's going. How much am I spending on my ad spend? So I've got a dashboard for Google pay-per-click. I've got a dashboard for Facebook ads. I can look at my lead attribution and my ROI on all the dollars that I'm spending. So that was kind of one of our big things moving forward was, and then again, integrating all the VA teams into it. So lead generation, for example, there's a lot of great products out there. PropStream, for example, I use that for a number of, times. It's great if you want to take the time to spend and put all the parameters in for what you're looking for. I actually stumbled on, while I was trying to find VA teams for lead generation, a group of them that are just phenomenal. I give them kind of my criteria of what I'm looking for. They take care of building the list, scrubbing the list, getting it all loaded in my system. If I want them cold calling it, they can cold call it. All their conversation stuff feeds right into the system. Their notes goes into there. They can do kind of a knee-jerk desktop appraisal for me as well. And I say that in very loose terms because, like we all know, until you actually get out there and touch and feel a property, that number could be wildly in any which direction. But it gives me kind of a point to start with. So that's really kind of helped. The next step, where after I got done building this for my own business, then monetizing, I'm going, I could get outside of my own backyard. Northeast Wisconsin is a great market. I really like it. I'm partial to it. But when I start again looking at the data, I'm starting to actually look for boots on the ground acquisition managers. So Salt Lake City, for example, this week I'm spinning up a group in Salt Lake City. Just the metrics out there, I really like that. Austin, Texas, Nashville, Atlanta, Georgia, Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina. They kind of fit a box of things that I look for. So I look for positive net migration going to an area, solid growing GDP of the local markets on there, low inventory. So there's, crime rates. So there's a lot of things that I look at from a data point perspective. So now my own product is helping me in my personal business, again, expand outside of my own backyard.
What is your CRM called?
So the CRM is called firehosecrm.com. So the joke is, trying to sip from a fire hose, from the fire service, it's like you're getting flooded with stuff. And sometimes you get overwhelmed with it. So that was kind of the impetus behind that idea of naming it Firehose CRM.
Firehosecrm.com. I like it. I'm putting it in my little real estate investor folder. I'm bookmarking it. Check into it later. Awesome. All right. So, what do you want to say about that software? Like, who is it for, and what does it cost?
Yep. So we started off, it's kind of a one size fits all. So again, kind of gets back to, I didn't like the nickeling and diming approach. So our base platform is basically $99 a month. Right now, we're actually waiving all the setup fees on it. So it's normally a $99 setup and then $99 a month on it. We also have the opportunity where the only upsells are buying leads, basically. So you're paying for the VA time to source the leads. If you want to add cold calling on it, again, we've got an experienced trained. They're actually U.S.-based leads. I use Filipino-based Filipino-based VAs. Great, perfect English, but for some reason, I'm not sure exactly what it was. I did notice that there was a little bit of an ROI difference between having US-based versus Filipino-based VAs. Not sure what the rhyme or reason is behind that. So we do typically use the US-based VAs for the cold calling aspect of it. So it's one of those things where it's a built for you platform. Everything is included. So if you want to add like ad buying, or you want to track all of your PPC and Facebook ad ROIs, there's not all these extra upsells in it. It's basically the only upsells are how many leads do you want to actually purchase. And when you purchase it, we automate everything on the back end. So you literally click the button, buy it. Our VA teams load everything, queue up your marketing campaigns that are in there for you. And it's basically a done for you approach. And the cool thing is with the open APIs, kind of talking a little computer speak, it's flexible enough too that if somebody comes to me and says, hey, Chris, I really want this integrated into it, 9 times out of 10, unless it's a very customized approach, we're going to take care of it. We're going to do it. And we're not going to charge for the integration on it because it's something we can use to help other people.
Good for you. That's awesome. Yeah, I think there's an industry direction we're going in of people like you, some other friends of mine, of being tired of these high ticket programs, softwares, where it's just, you're just, to be able to survive in the business, you have to spend thousands of dollars a month on marketing equipment, lead generation stuff. So I love that there are people like you in the marketplace and some other friends of mine that are looking for, how do we make things free? How do we make things easier, cheaper, better, so that all your profit isn't going towards just operational costs?
Yeah. I mean, at one point, I think I was spending almost $1,100 a month on all these different software subscriptions. And it got ridiculous. It's like I'm spending more money going out the window and I'm managing software instead of being out at kitchen tables and doing deals,
Yeah, I have clients of mine that have spent more than that,
Hmm.
2,000 a month just for the programs they needed. And then their total marketing spend would be like 10K a month.
Yeah. And like even just some of the basic stuff, like I was getting so frustrated with the data redundancy because systems wouldn't talk to each other. So I would use one CRM and then the SMS program I used, I had to manually enter stuff into there. And it got to be too much. And then as I started bringing on VAs, the cost of adding those team members. So like with our approach, I don't care if you've got somebody driving for dollars doing bird dogging, or if you've got somebody that's going to be a VA, because the system has a power dialer built into it where you can set up a queue and you could have a VA literally log into the system and power dial out and do all of your cold calling for you. And it doesn't cost you anything extra for bringing those VAs to the table to help you out. So
That's awesome. Well, so what would you say has been your biggest challenge as a real estate investor, Chris?
I think my biggest challenge was in the early beginnings is letting go and getting other people, specifically VAs, to help me. That was an absolute game changer for me when I started bringing on VAs to help out. The amount of time I was spending on lead generation, lead list building, and all that was it was ridiculous. I was
Yeah.
11, 12 o'clock at night. I'm putzing on the computer trying to build a lead list. And then you've got, after you get done with that, all the other pieces of it.
Yeah.
So I would encourage anybody in early on in your business, find a VA and get them on board. It's going to be a game
Yeah,
changer.
and so I want to plug a VA service that's a company I actually work for, and that is Scaling with VAs. And Cody Barton and Pace Morby are owners of this company, and I work there as the business process coach, but I also do sales coaching and training there, help with marketing. And it is a VA service where we have very high standards for anyone even being considered being a VA, but then the hiring process and the training process, like only 50% of the candidates that apply make it.
Mm-hmm.
There's criteria, equipment criteria, all of that they have to make. And then we have a variety of services that we offer. And the two biggest services are lead generation services, where they can get either a VA that does cold calling, or they can get a hybrid VA that'll text and cold call. And depending on the service, the dedicated service, we can manage payroll and their VA is managed by us, versus our certified program where we just provide a trained VA to a client and they're in control and they pay that VA directly. So we have about 700 VAs in the Philippines that.
Oh, that's awesome. And that was Scaling with VAs was the name of the company?
No, that's one of our programs actually. Scaling with VAs
Okay.
is a program that we work with clients and actually work with them in learning how to scale their business in preparation for bringing VAs in, not just lead generation, but mostly admin VAs for like, how do we get more off your plate?
Oh,
So
yeah.
we do a variety of VA services, lead generation, admin services. In the admin services, they can do social media and just basic administrative and transactional stuff. We have bookkeeping VAs. We have insurance recruiting and underwriting genie VAs. We have quite a variety of VA services, but I'd say what leads the pack in our VA services is the lead generation services that we provide. It's called Start Virtual.
Start Virtual.
Start Virtual. And if you're always looking for sources for VAs, we can talk, just DM me and we could
Sure.
schedule a time to talk where I can go into more detail. Because if that's something we sign affiliates up. So if you're
Mhm.
working with people and you're recommending VAs and that's a service that you want to recommend, and you do refer clients to us, you do get an affiliate income from that.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I'll have to reach out onto you because, like I said, as I'm starting to scale up into other markets here, I always want to make sure that I've got the capacity to do that with the VA teams.
Yeah. And
Everybody's
not getting distracted with trying to source them, find them, train
Mhm.
them. Like our VAs who do lead generation go through a pretty rigorous 4-week training process where they're learning real estate investment
Mhm.
terms, how to talk to sellers, how to overcome objections, how to really qualify a seller so
Mhm.
they're valid. So
And
yeah,
that's a huge thing for
yeah,
especially new investors is finding an organization like that one that you're talking about that does all of that up front. Because I spent a
start
ridiculous amount of
virtual.
money going through like Fiverr and these other things, and the amount of time and effort that I put into that was wasted. It was a learning experience, but it was a lot of
Right.
wasted money where you can partner with an organization like yours and really
Yeah,
jumpstart it.
and what's nice about that is there is oversight and accountability, and there is the opportunity that if one VA isn't working, they can exchange them for another VA, and it's done very quickly. They're not having to go through that whole transition because I find from coaching, because I'm a coach for real estate investors and I'm a business mindset, habits, and accountability coach for entrepreneurs, but mostly real estate investors, that a lot of people will hang on to someone because the notion of having to start over and they'll
Mm-hmm.
just tolerate poor performance. So, what's nice about the services that start virtual is that, hire slowly, fire quickly, and let's get, if you're not happy with someone, let's get that switched out quickly so you can onboard the next VA and they can get in the groove for you quickly. So
Yeah.
it's nice that kind of service. And there's a lot of VA services in the real estate investment space that are charging an arm and a leg. It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no accountability
Mm-hmm.
and no oversight. They overpromise and underdeliver.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's nice when you can go to and not everybody's perfect and not all VAs work out. So we allow for that. We're transparent about that. But it's just nice to have oversight, management, training, um, helping with managing that process if you need to change anything.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really a good deal.
It is that oversight part of it, and that training piece of it is just you really can't. You can, I'm sure, put a dollar amount to it, but from a business owner perspective, like that is a lot of time, a lot of effort, and I've heard a lot of people talk about know your worth. What is your per hour worth as a business owner? And if it's anything less than that in terms of what you're doing, whether it's cold calling, training VAs, that thing,
It's funny.
find somebody to do that for you.
Yes, because you're actually saving money rather than spending it. And it's funny you mention that because part of our scaling with VA program that our CEO, Cody Barton, created um, is walking clients through that type of a process of helping them figure out what is your time worth. And if you want to make so much in a year, this is what your hourly rate is. And look at
Mm-hmm.
all these things you're doing in your business that are $5 or $10 dollar or 20 hour,
Yep.
$20 an hour things. Well, that's actually costing you money to be
Mm-hmm.
doing it. And there's so many solopreneur slaves that
Mm-hmm.
no, I don't have the budget to hire a VA. Well, okay, then your your head has now hit the ceiling. You have nowhere else to go, and you're not going to be able to grow unless you're working even more. And
Yep.
at some point, something's got to give, and you've got to start shifting out of thinking like Michael Gerber's book, The E Myth Revisited, is thinking like an entrepreneur, like a manager, like a business owner, that you aren't the one who's supposed to be doing it all.
Yep. Last night was a perfect example of the beauty of having a VA. So I use Asana as my project management software. Last night I'm going to bed and I got a random thought popped into my head for something that I wanted one of the VAs that works on. So we've got another website we're actually spinning up right now that at a high level consider it MLS for real estate wholesalers. It would be basically a free site they can list properties and interchange with people. But one of the things that I wanted them to do is start doing some data scraping on it. It was something I could probably spend 6, 8 hours myself going down that rabbit hole. But last night, as I'm going to bed, I pull open the app on my phone, I type out the new tasks on there, I sit that. And when they pop on to the next task, they're going to see, okay, here's what I want. Here's kind of the high level of it. It took me like
Don't you
maybe
love that? Like
it's
once
great.
you get comfortable delegating, you're like, oh my God, why didn't I start doing this years ago?
That was the hardest part for me
Yeah,
was making that
letting go of
switch.
control to have more freedom.
Yep. And once I did, game changer. Like I said,
Yeah,
be able to crawl into bed and tap out a quick couple of messages there and know that
and
it's going to get
someone
taken
else
care
is
of.
doing it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, love that.
So things like that, and like when we talk about the VAs, one of the struggles I had too is when you have these conversations with sellers, like SMS. I do a lot of SMS back and forth. People subscribe to pages or whatever. There was things that would come about in there that I'm like, I'm paying a VA, a couple bucks an hour doing this. We actually automated our system, so we have predictive text. So if somebody responds back based on how they respond, positive intent, negative intent, those types of things, we have an entire workflow built out. It runs through 12 to 14 questions with a seller before they even realize they're not talking.
Did you use Chat GBT to do that
Not
for you?
yet. We're actually right now
right? Yeah.
working on that integration with Chat GPT for not only that part of it, but also a bunch of other automation, social media, and those things. But ours are kind of now old school workflow automations, so depending on how they respond.
It's 6 months after you hit the market with them. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But it's funny because, with those automations, when I log in, I don't have to even read through the entire conversation. A lot of that stuff is already getting pinned in a menu. I've got spots where, like, what do they want for the property? Well, it tells me what they answered, so it's stuff like that that really cuts down in time. So again, now I'm maximizing the time of my VAs instead of doing those things. I've got a computer running that thing,
Yeah. Good for you. I love it. I'm curious, Chris, if you were to jump up on a rooftop and you had a captive audience and you could just share the absolute wisdom and advice, what would that be to real estate investors?
Find a way to automate your business. Find a way to make the business run that doesn't require you to be tapping on keyboards, picking up the phone. Once you find that ability, whether that's software programs or VAs or bringing on team members, you are going to notice a profound difference in your daily life. Like, you're just not as stressed,
Yeah, and your ability to scale.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And that's what we help people with at Start Virtual. And that's what I help real estate investors with as a business coach. That's what I do, is that piece. I initially started off working with a lot of new investors. That isn't my niche anymore. It's people that are at that level where they've got some success, but they've been doing it all themselves and they're not sure how to get to that next level. They just need help starting to systematize their business, get things automated and delegated to elevate, leveraging technology and other people's time and talent.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I would tag onto that too, especially for the fix and flip folks. Use contractors. Don't think, hey, I'm going to save myself a couple of bucks swinging that hammer, doing that, because your time is far more valuable getting out there in front of those potential other sellers than it is swinging a hammer, Yeah,
you just have to be good at vetting contractors.
Mm-hmm.
And here's what I'll end with is a Maya Angelou quote, especially applied to in this business, to anybody who's working for or with you in this business, but especially contractors and real estate agents, is when people show you who they are, believe them the first time.
Exactly.
If a contractor shows up late and doesn't call you the very first time you meet, do not have a second. Don't give them, unless there's an emergency. No, I don't. I've seen enough.
I've got one other nugget too to throw out there. So a software program that I've used for years in the safety industry, I was actually part of the original dev team when they built this thing out, I don't know, 12 years ago. It's a program called iAuditor, iAuditor.com. They have a free license that you can use this program with, so you don't have to do all the automations. I've actually used it at the enterprise level. I actually have a template built out that when I do a walkthrough with the contractor, I snap photos, I load it into there with the comments very specifically identifying scope of work, and then I can email a PDF to that contractor so that it's very clear on what's expected, photos and everything, so that if that contractor comes back and goes, well, we talked about this, we were going to do that. Nope, here it is in writing. Always make sure, especially with those new contractors, when you're developing that relationship, that you use a program to very specifically identify, lay it out, and photos are great. Photos are very illustrative. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Chris, it's been an absolute pleasure having you as a guest on my podcast. Let's stay in touch. There's more
yeah,
conversations for us to have. Thank you so much for telling us, like getting into some details on some of the programs and all the resources you cited. Please feel free, when I post this post in my group, The Unstoppable Real Estate Investor, look for it. There'll be a little bit of time for this video to convert, and then I'm going to find the promotional post that Rose posted today for me in the group and add this video. Feel free in the comments to include some of the links of some of those
yeah,
shared today, okay? Including
absolutely.
the site and the link to your CRM as well.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Chris, for being my guest. I really appreciate it. It's been great to be able to meet you. I want to thank everybody else for your patience with our technical difficulties. And we should be back online live streaming by next week. Happy St. Patty's Day. I wish you all lots of luck today. And thank you so much, Chris, for being our guest.
Yeah, I really appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much. Bye.